Hello and welcome to the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast. It is MLK Day. It is January 18th. There is lots and lots to cover. It's a somber day, obviously. It's MLK Day. And we're going to celebrate the return of hockey because that makes sense. In today's show, we're going to discuss Liverpool and Man United's narrative shifting. Nil. Man City grabbing the bull by the horns with a win over Palace. The rest of the past week's games and all the games since we last potted. We missed a week. But first, Mike, tell us about the opening weekend of the NHL season. Your true secret passion that you yell about on your own without anyone knowing and don't care.
I yell into the void a lot. Let's be very clear about something. We are celebrating MLK Day. It's not a somber day. It's his birthday, right? It's a good thing to celebrate. Also,
it's also a big hockey day in Canada.
It is. And in New York, the 60th birthday of one Mark Messier. That's why I'm celebrating today. Speaking of, listen, we are 5 days into the NHL season. We don't know a whole lot.
What are the narratives? Who are the favorites?
The narratives are everybody in Canada is eating themselves because there's a Canadian division now because Trudeau won't open the fucking border. So it's actually pretty wild. And that's actually the best hockey you could watch. Not because they're all Canadian, because they're basically all similar in skill level, right? Like Toronto's supposed to be the best. They are in first place. But there's some wildly surprising hockey. Ottawa's supposed to be horrible, and they beat the shit out of the Maple Leafs. So that's a lot of fun. The Bruins are in the other, basically pressure cooker division that would have been the Rangers, Islanders, Flyers, Penguins. They're the best team in that division.
They're in the Patrick. The old Patrick.
What is effectively the Patrick now? Yes, that's right. The East division, if you will. So you've got more or less 6 good teams for 4 playoff spots. That's fun. And then you've got 2, basically a Central and a West. The 2 Florida teams are in the Central because geography makes sense in the NHL.
Those teams shouldn't be there. You know it and I know it.
Tampa Bay and Dallas played for the Stanley Cup last year. They're currently in the same division. So figure that out.
But they shouldn't be in hockey. There should be no warm weather hockey teams. That's a rule. If I ever become the commissioner of sport, I'm going to do pro rel for every sport, no drafts, and we're going to just take the European model for all our sports.
I like it. And then the West Division has 3 good teams: Vegas, Colorado, St. Louis, and the rest are dog shit. So it's weird. But yeah, the narratives are we are who we thought they thought we were, right? Tampa Bay, Stanley Cup champions, beat the living fuck out of the Chicago Blackhawks twice, who are really bad. We knew that. Toronto's good, but again, the Canadian division is super fun. Washington is pretty solid, but yeah, Boston lost today to the Islanders, who the Islanders started 2 games against the Rangers. 4-0 win, 5-0 loss. So soccer terms, we win on aggregate, right?
Hey.
Yeah, I don't know. It's too early, but that's the storyline so far.
I might just get into hockey. I need another sport.
Do it.
I figured out that I like following basketball via podcast, but not actually watching it, which can't be good.
No, it's an unwatchable sport until the last 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah,
right?
it's really not watchable.
If it's a 5-point game or less, then it's probably one of the best sports to watch. If it's any other outcome, fucking kill me.
So since we last potted, there's been a lot that's gone on. I can't even figure out where we potted from and how many games happened. There's games in hand. There's hands in my pants. There's games everywhere. So what I did was I did a little bit of notes for every team based on their order. So we're going to go top to bottom. This is the table, and then a little blurb on every team. I'll do the first 5. I'll do the first 4, and then you can take over for Tottenham. All right? Let's do it that way. You got the notes up?
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so
I got the notes.
Manchester United, they're top of the league after they beat Burnley right after we potted last week.
Can you say that one more time for me?
Manchester United.
Can you say that one more time for me?
Top of the league.
There you go.
Top of the league. There you have a 2-point lead over, and they're top of the league, and they're still, no one believes that this team is winning the league. So there's been some good conversations there. Number 2 are our new contenders and champions elect, Manchester City. You said it a month ago.
Hey.
I didn't believe you. I will admit I was pep out early in the year, but City are now contenders again. They're not giving up goals. They're coming back. They've changed the way they play, in that they went back to the way they used to play, in that someone figured out that Gundogan can actually be David Silva. So they figured it out. They're like, oh, just do what he used to do.
Right.
Oh, all right. And now it works.
New boss.
That's funny.
Listen, new boss, same as the old boss, right? Like,
Right.
hold on. Let's explore that a little bit more, right? Like, again, second, 2 points behind Man United for top of the league. They have a game in hand, and it's Villa, and we'll get to Villa in a second. That's not a walkover. They
No,
win that
but
game.
they also
They
haven't
are
played in
currently
the War of 1812.
table leaders. Right. But listen, they've got the best goal difference in the league, tied with Spurs and Liverpool, ironically. But I mean, look, you win one more game. You're at 18 games, just like everybody else. You have the most points and the best goal difference. Oh, does that sound like Manchester City to you? It sounds a lot like fucking Manchester City to me.
Here's the
same
thing.
fucking. I know that they've gone through transformations.
Well, let's speed through this so that I want to talk about my team later on. Leicester are back in the conversation. I don't trust them.
Okay.
Anytime they play a big game, they get killed. So when they play City again, City's going to be like, oh, you guys beat us 5-2? We suck then. We're going to kick you in the dicks. Liverpool are floundering. They can't score. And I have a discussion on that. And on to you, starting at under 5. Tell us about what's happening with Spurs.
Okay, very, very impressive win this weekend over Sheffield United. You know, the team that has one win in 19 games. So everybody has, and this is the problem. They are not. This is the problem with, again, the shifting of narrative, right? Like, so 5 days ago, Tottenham is winning 1-0 against Fulham, who is 18th in the table currently. In the second half, they start to bunker back down, and I look at everybody in the world who will listen to me, and I go, here we go again. This is the 5th time that Spurs have dropped points in the second half of the game, nearly close to the last 10 minutes. Fulham get an equalizer. Spurs go gas, can't get the winner, and they drop points.
They did have
to be said.
3.5 expected goals for that game. Like
this is the thing.
Clear.
I had a bit of a hissy fit after that game because I was like, I just can't fucking do this shit anymore, right? Like Fulham, Palace, Wolves, all bottom half of the table teams who you've dropped points from a winning position over, right? Don't even get me started on the West Ham game. So that right there is 8 points. That would have, by the way, put you top of the table if you had not closed all those games out. The problem is that Mourinho's style is working. You alluded to the expected goals. Heung-min Son, I love him, right? You cannot lay any blame
way
in his
over
feet
expectations, but still, that's fine.
Yes, and it started to regress in that game specifically. Okay, in our fantasy league, we have a stat called BCMs, big chances missed. Right? He had 4 of them.
Yes,
dude. I have guys on my team who don't have 4 all season. So he had 4 BCMs in one game. Kane had a BCM. So and I forget who had there was 6 for the team in total. Yep. Basically, what a BCM effectively is a sitter, a goal that you really, really should be having, right? Yep. Son 4, Kane 1. It doesn't matter. That game should have been 4-5-0.
Yeah.
And actually, Fulham missed a few.
Spurs are there or thereabout. I mean, you could make the argument to me. I'm not even being funny when I talk about Liverpool could finish out of the top 4 easily.
That's the thing, right? And like I think with the conversation, it probably ends here. Chelsea would have something to say about it. Everton
let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's talk about Everton.
Yeah, let's go, and we'll double back.
Yeah. So Everton.
So what do you got for Everton?
Quietly bleeding Wolves, still doing their thing, methodical. They had a little blip. They went defensive, but they're still lurking. Like Ancelotti still has them working. Beating Wolves is a thing. Chelsea are really sputtering badly. I think Lampard's getting shown a little bit. Like it's big boy pants time to try and figure out how to get all these guys to play. You talked about it. They didn't need these players, but I don't think he doesn't have the managerial gravitas to be like, I don't care if we bought these players. They're not playing. Right. That's the difficult thing to do. He feels that way with one player, with Mount, who saved his ass. Because I watched the Fulham game. Fulham was playing well and probably might have earned a draw until they got a red card. Southampton have slid a little bit. They're still playing hard. They lost to Leicester 2-0. A good win because it was really 1-0 and 2 really good goals. Madison top bins from the corner. One of those, the only place you can score it is shooting it high. I think that's a goal that's similar in hockey. Like when you shoot it high above the shoulder, that shot from a tight angle.
He talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
He talked about it in the press conference, which by the way, that was one of the most impressive press conferences. It sounded like he was with his mates at the
Yeah,
right? He
so
was
good.
just chatting about the game. And so one of the things he said specifically about that goal was I think he said his dad, when he was younger, he said, when you're in tight on the short post like that, shoot for the roof of the net because it's the only place that the goalie
The
can't
funnier
defend.
part about it was he specifically mentioned Arsenal's Arshavin as the guy who did it.
Yes.
Just even
That's right. That's right.
Because that guy was
he
a
said to the
legend for
reporter,
sucking.
he's like, he goes, you might not remember. Like the reporter wasn't twice his age.
Yeah.
And the reporter looked at him like, you're like fucking.
Yeah, you're 12. You know who scores that guy?
Right,
that is the Aguero goal. That is the patented Aguero
That's
goal.
correct.
Yeah,
that
he
is
does
correct.
That goal all the time. West Ham keep finding results. More 1-0s. They're full Moyes. They're unstoppable. I don't ever want to play West Ham. And City, I think, already had a draw. You had a draw with them. They're tough. It's not your mother's West Ham. Suchek is, signing of the season almost. He's fantastic. And when they're firing, they're not fun to play. They still probably have, still not getting Benrahma involved as much, but that's not the type of player that Moyes will play. That's disappointing. Arsenal in the form table that we look at, they're unbeaten in their last 5 with 4 wins. They had a good win today. We can get to Newcastle. Newcastle are terrible, but they're starting to play well. They needed Willian to get injured so that Arteta wouldn't play him. Once they didn't play him, they figured out they should play Smith Rowe and Saka all the time. Aubameyang scored 2 goals. They're playing well. On to Aston Villa, who look bad because they're now 11th in the table. They haven't played in a month.
When you look at holy shit. Okay, so real quick, I was going to bring up the fact that Arsenal had played one more game than everybody. Arsenal are officially at the halfway point.
Yes.
Everybody else is either 18 or 17 games, except for
Villa.
Aston Villa, 15. They have 4 games in hand.
4 games in hand.
3 on pretty much 3 or 2 on everybody above them.
Yeah.
So if you say 3 games, right, 9 points, if you win all those 3. Now, granted, one of those is against Manchester City, so
they
fine.
will not win.
But if you give them 9 points, I understand. But if you give them the 9 points and you give them 18 games played, they are currently second in the table.
Wow, I would expect. I mean, we can probably assume
City,
their points per game. They're probably at around 1.5 or 1.7. So we could.
I would agree. I would say they're probably. I think they get 6 of those 9. Right. Yeah. Like I think they lose to City. They pick up the other 2 wins. Maybe they draw 1. So it's probably a likely 4, a potential 6.
Yeah.
Right.
So and fine. Then
they're at 7th.
My favorite team, Leeds, lost some of their shine. They dropped 2 on a bounce. They don't look so sparkly. The old bugaboos of Bielsa teams coming through. Are they tired? One of the things that happened with Leeds, because I watched the broadcast, because it was Brighton versus Leeds. I mean, it was like my personal hipster masturbation patrol. It was like my blackened. I had to watch it. But they won something like 10 of 11 after the restart. So they got a boost because they got to get to rest and then come back and win the division. So they may be running out of gas. They need more players because Bielsa plays the same 11 guys over and over and over and over and over again. So this has happened. There's a reason why Alexis Sanchez almost died. It's because he was playing for Chile, playing all the time under Bielsa.
Yeah. Is there a team that's more affected by the schedule than Leeds? Right?
Maybe.
It's crazy when you talk about Liverpool and City and Tottenham and all these fucking games.
They don't have injuries though. They're just playing a lot.
They don't.
Yeah.
But exactly. So the thing is that whereas all those teams have had injuries and they've been forced to go into like the understudies and the second team and all that,
they just play. They basically
hasn't.
Yeah, Leeds
they're just running them into the ground.
Yeah.
You'd almost, it sounds horrible, but you'd almost say that they might be better off, especially Bamford, if 1 or 2 guys went down, because then you get fresh legs in the team.
Well, think about it. Think about what happened and how Pochettino played Spurs in like that last 18 months when you were like, Eriksen's gone.
He was going to call me like,
yeah, but he would play them, right? Eriksen, you just had to play, right? They had that whole no transfer window season, and the team was running to the ground. And the only thing that saved them, weirdly, was the fact that they made it to the Champions League final. Like they could get up for those games. No, but you know what I mean? Like that back half of that last season, before the season that he failed, before they got canned before last season, they were fading badly, right?
Oh God. They had the worst away form in the Premier League from that January to the end of the season. Like,
and they were right there, and then they just disappeared. Right.
Exactly. And you're absolutely right, because they were shot and they were like, we can charge up for the Champions League games and we're going to blow it against fucking everybody.
Right. And they didn't have a Højbjerg, who's like a fucking legend now. I fucking love that guy.
Right.
You have to talk about the Ndombele goal, but later. Palace, don't care. They're still moving. They'll be around. No Zaha, no Party. City just whooped them. Wolves really sinking. This is the first time I think Nuno has had a problem. They're not scoring. They're not keeping clean sheets anymore. They're getting nothing from Traore. A couple games is a blip for someone like Wolves, but now they're really starting to sink. They need Jimenez back. They need Diego Costa. I don't know where that rumor came from. It never came to fruition, but they need somebody to play striker.
Well, so here's the thing. Daniel Podence has been out, and I think that he has, honestly, he's been, listen, you can lose one. They had a great attacking band, right? They have Jota.
They played 11 guys, and that's it.
Right. But they have Neto, they have Jimenez, they have Podence, and a very potent front three. You lose Jimenez, and you're like, oh, shit. Okay. Fabio Silva comes in. Even if he's not scoring goals, he's still doing a job. He's doing okay. And then Podence goes down, and everybody looks at Neto, and they're like, all on you now, kid. He's only 20 years old too, by the way. Yeah. So I think that they're suffering from a few different things, but also, by the way, game of the week, right? West Brom Wolves, which is a derby, which I actually didn't know before I tuned in. Wow.
Yeah, they went
at it. Was kind of it was an early game as a shock to the system, and it was the only watchable game. The only watchable game this last weekend.
Yeah,
they're terrible.
We go into terrible. Newcastle are 15th. They kind of have the same points as Rafa, but this team's quitting. They're disappearing.
Yeah.
I put a note in here to really miss St. Maximin. They haven't won a game since he went down. He's now on month 2 of COVID. So he really got hit hard. So he's just back to training, and he's such a fun player. If you've ever watched him play, he's all over the place. Step overs at midfield.
I will not try to compare myself to a professional soccer player who's basically a world-class sprinter, but I don't know for sure that I had the COVID, but I had something bad, like right around Christmas. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, like New Year's. I went to try and exercise last week, a good week after I was like feeling better, and my lungs were trying to secede from the union. They're like, "Fuck this, we're done." I'm like, dude, I ran a mile.
So there was an insurrection in Capital Mike's body.
Yes, there was.
The fucking horn guy was there, and he was trying to poke out of your chest.
That's right. The face paint, everything. I have receipts
fantastic.
But so these guys they're so dependent on their fitness and their respiratory, I guess, and to not be able to do that and maintain it, it very quickly falls off.
Yeah, it's going to take ages. He's not going to be back until. God
exactly.
knows.
I'm sure he's fine, but I bet you that it's probably more to do with getting him back to speed than anything.
For 15 minutes when you're close. Anyway, so Brighton got a big win against Leeds.
Huge.
Leeds were bad.
Huge.
Brighton got it done, but they're still doing the same thing. They still have that we play football, we can't finish. Burnley are the other way. They look like shit constantly, and they are shit. They're just huffing long balls. They're out of the relegation zone, so they're in 17th, 4 points ahead of Fulham. Fulham have been playing well, getting draws, which is nice to stay out of the relegation, but it's hard to make a jump. They have like 4 draws. I'd rather have the 2 wins and the 3 losses.
Absolutely. I mean, Burnley did have a tough little stretch of it, right? But but nobody's gonna cry for Burnley.
Yeah, I think we'd all like to see less of Burnley. Can you just fuck off now?
Oh God.
But they have an owner, so we'll see what that means. I'd love to see Dyche actually try and play. That would be nice. So that should be interesting.
You're not going to see that till next season, though, right? Like, there's no way that they're going to get enough funds and enough players.
Right? They could try and do that one buy just to keep them on side, like just some rando.
Yeah, I think the goal this season, especially with the new ownership, right? Just stay in the Premier League. Stay in the Premier League, and then we'll see
better than West Brom.
What type of Sean Dyche we see.
It's really only 2 spots because there's no way Sheffield's coming back into it.
It's Fulham. It's 3 teams for me.
Yeah, but Fulham don't look like a relegation team now.
No, not at
They
all.
did.
And they're likable.
Yeah, they did look like one, but they don't now. West Bromwich, they got a weird win. That, like you said, it was a battle, but they're still, their whole team is designed to play attacking football, and that's not how Allardyce wants to play. He's already bringing in his fucking schnooks. So Robert Snodgrass has moved there. I'm sure we'll see some other shitbirds from the Allardyce tree. We'll see what happens there. And then Sheffield got their first win, but they're completely fucked. As much as I like Wilder, and we've talked about him a lot, but you really notice, like, I think this is the season for me where I really come to appreciate good goalkeeping. Like, Ramsdale is not good. He's not who they had. Well, what was the guy's name? Who's at United? I can't remember his name.
Dean Henderson.
Yeah, he's not Dean Henderson. He's not close to Dean Henderson.
No.
And you can see it. He flails. Every single goal you see that goes in, it looks like he did something that someone else might have done, right? Like, so he's not bad. He's just not good.
Here's a bit of a hot take for you. I don't know that this is, I'm not saying that this is the only reason that one is where they are and the other is where they are. Aston Villa's got arguably the best goaltender in the league, right?
He feels it when you watch them. He feels
Emi Martinez. Doesn't it feel like Emi Martinez takes points away from the opposition? Not so much that he wins them from his team, but he's like, you're not getting 3 today. Or whatever. And then Jackie Grealish goes and does something and wins a game, and he's fucking phenomenal.
He's the number one creator.
The combination, right? The combination of the two is why they're currently mid-table and not fighting a relegation battle, which some of us here thought that might have been possible at the beginning of the season.
They did last year.
They did, right? Exactly. So it wasn't far-fetched. They're outperforming, like we mentioned. They're already 3-4 games behind everybody as far as played, not points. But Sheffield United they don't have that Grealish. They don't have that Watkins. They didn't make good business. Ryan Brewster's kind of not working out for them.
Didn't work.
But also, they don't have, like you said, the Dean Henderson anymore. So that's where Sheffield United was flirting with mid-table last year, right? So again, it's a bit of a hot take, and you gotta have to kind of squint to see it. But there's I think that's one of the big differences in storylines in the season, right? Like, Aston Villa's got not just competent, capable, phenomenal goaltending, and Sheffield United.
And it may be a form thing. Like, I'm not like a goalkeeping expert. It just may be that Martinez, having the time at Arsenal, comes in, he's on form, he's playing well, he's big, he's strong. You know, they're not trying to make him do too much to make him look bad.
Yeah.
Mings has been good, and all of a sudden they have a defense. And we saw what happened with Allison and earlier Ederson. You get that good goalkeeper, your fucking team completely changes. You're like, all of a sudden
everybody breathes.
Yeah, it's immense. Anyway, so that's the table, right? We just went through it really quick, 10 days. So one thing that was really interesting that came out of the 0-0 from Liverpool is Danny Higginbotham, who I had known who he was. He's now working with the NBC SN team as a color studio guy. He was an announcer. He would work with Mountain Tyler. He moved from England. He got the job to be the Philadelphia Union's color guy. So this is a guy from England, played in the Premier League, a United thing. He's now in, and he's actually providing much better analysis than Robbie Earle and Robbie Mustoe. I think he's just new and he's just doing his thing, and he's smart, and that's how he got to where he is. But one of the things he said that was really interesting, they're just like, oh, how come, Rebecca Lowe asking the sort of general question, hey, how come Salah, Mane, and Firmino aren't scoring? And guys just talk about those individual players. And he's the only one who's like, because the defense isn't playing the way it should be. So his point was, without Gomez and without Van Dijk, they can't play a high line. So the distances are different. The ball that comes from defense to midfield is further away. The defensive teams have more time after turnovers to get set. And that's why Liverpool can't score. And this goes to the bigger point of just like, when teams aren't doing what they used to do, it's never one thing. It's always, there's a chain reaction of shit that fucks up. Like, right now, Fabinho's got to play defense for Liverpool with Henderson. That means they're not in the midfield. That means they're not getting the pass out of the back to turn and make the pass to Alexander-Arnold quickly enough to cross it early to a run that Mane makes. If it's 3 seconds slower, the opportunity is gone.
It's an eternity. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And that's and it goes back to City as well. Like, City are literally only different from what they were, the first month of the season. They were slow. They've literally changed on fractions of time changing.
Yep.
Right. Just having Gundogan moving 10 steps forward and Cancelo coming infield 3 more times a game. It's completely changed the offense. The whole thing takes off. And then they get confidence not giving up goals. The whole thing starts working. The engine moves and it's gone.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
My question, I'm going to take it one step further back, right? When you were listening to Danny Higginbotham talk, did you have that, kind of moment where you were like,
I mean, I knew that intrinsically, but I was just happy he said it.
Thank you.
Because you get this sort of like, oh, it has to be Firmino's not doing something right. Or this is like, it's always localized, the idea of like the strike versus the midfield and the defense, when it's really an entire unit.
It's a collective. You said it 100 times on this show. You're only as good as your worst player, right?
That's how soccer is. Yes.
Weakest link. And fine. But what I'm looking at is, and we talked about it. I don't even remember anymore what show, but the narrative and all that stuff. It's just talking points. It's shit that we're watching this game for a handful of years. And we're like, we sound like we're in the back of a pub, just like bullshitting and saying, like Salah missed the fucking sitter and blah, blah, blah. Listen, why am I listening to you, talking head, getting paid to analyze this game, giving me fuck all that I don't already know? Right. And why is on American coverage of an English sport, why is Danny Higginbotham better than anybody on Sky Sports, better than anybody anywhere? Right. Like
maybe that's why he left. Maybe he was like, you know what? They locked. I can't. They want to talk about, he's playing with confidence now. What the fuck does that mean?
That's bullshit. It's bullshit. I'll give you another.
It might not be bullshit, but it can't be the reason for everything.
It can't be the number one answer all the time. We'll go back to hockey for 2 seconds. The NBC hockey coverage is boilerplate and boring and shitty ex-players and not that but they're not all there, right? They're not intelligent players. They're just guys who were fucking getting a paycheck and their agent got them hooked up with this gig. Whereas if you turn on Sportsnet in Canada, which I have, and it is delightful, you've got Kevin Bieksa, former Vancouver Canucks defenseman. You've got Anthony Stewart. You've got Elliot Friedman, who's the #1 insider, and Brian Burke, a former GM, all on a panel. And they're sitting there, and Kevin Bieksa, instead of saying, oh gosh, look at that shot, it went off the post and in, Kevin Bieksa is like, no, idiot, go back to the defensive zone, look at the breakout pass. Then you see the pass go left, you see the winger, you see the right winger cutting
the unit, right?
Exactly. The same thing Higginbotham's doing, right?
Yeah.
And I sit there and I go, this is light years better than the shit that the American fans are watching. Like, what the fuck? The problem I have is, and actually in this case, it's in the right spot, right? It's the Canadian coverage. Why is there such a premium on intelligence in the analyst industry? The fuck are you doing? Now, Robbie Mustoe and Robbie Earl are actually great on camera. I love them. I love listening to them.
I think the thing that you and I have that most people just want to feel good and it's fine and it doesn't really matter. Like, we're hardcore, right? We want to know more than that. And I think most people are just pleased with their casuals. They just watch the game. They repeat what people say, blah, blah, blah. I do want to see more. I do want to know, like, there are YouTubers out there that fucking break down passing lanes.
Yeah.
This is what they did here. And when they do the breakouts, I mean, when, that stuff's good. And that's what Carragher and Neville do a little bit more often.
Somewhat.
But we're not getting this. And I know that this is what's happening. There's a producer that tells them they have to talk about Man United. There's a producer that tells them they have to talk about Arsenal. They do the segments. They're just like, all right, I guess we got to fucking do it. Like, you can, that's why, as much as you don't like Craig Burley, I love Craig Burley because he complains about the sausage. He's like, we're fucking doing this again? We're doing Messi, Ronaldo, who's the greatest of all time? Are we really doing this?
Yeah.
Again?
Well, I mean, that's everything ESPN now, right? But
but still, like, he doesn't want to do it. At least he's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
I get that. You know what? All right, Burley's got some points in my book, then that's fine.
I mean, listen, he's good. I know he pisses you off. He's good because he's so fucking grumpy that he reminds me of Keith Hernandez. Like, Keith Hernandez will be doing Met games and he's just like, oh my God, we're going to extra innings. This Met team is terrible, and I have to stay for.
You'll have Ron Darling and Keith Hernandez not just throwing it back to the 80s and talking about crazy shit that happened, but Ron Darling will be like, look at the fucking way his front foot is landing when he pitches.
Yeah.
And it's changing the spin on his curveball or whatever, right? Like shit where you're like, oh my God, you're a former Major League Baseball player. And I can tell.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
well, that's the one thing. That's the thing that I always have the beef with the Yankees. The Yankees fucking announcers are awful. You can't hide from them. Right.
No.
I hate Sterling. I hate Paul O'Neill and Cone.
I
They're
love
all
O'Neill.
terrible.
The only thing that I love about O'Neill and Cone is that when O'Neill will kind of do like a nudge. Hey,
They
Cone,
laugh,
remember when you were a total booze hound? Like, hey, Cone, remember that game? Yeah, you seemed to roll in about 10 minutes before first pitch. What happened the night before, Cone? Like,
yeah, he's like, I was
Coney's
hanging
like,
out with
no
David Wells.
comment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
No, what I'd love is that's why Pedro's so good, right? Pedro's just like,
he's great.
He's like, holy fuck.
There's a lot of good like nerds. You know who's great when he's in studio, not when he's at a game? Alex Rodriguez. He's a nerd. He's so good. Watching him and Frank Thomas talking about hitting in the Fox studio.
They were good.
Oh my God, it's pornographic.
I think they slowed down.
Well, because they started to try and like become like
TV guys.
Yeah, right, exactly. They just,
I mean,
that's
I mean, to go to another sport, that's the wonder. That's why Romo came in off the fucking bench.
Yes.
Did one season and got a $20 million a year contract.
Exactly.
Because he was calling plays.
Tony Romo. Well, yes. Listen, and I don't need it in real time. I'm talking about you have the advantage of seeing what happened and telling me at a deeper level what actually happened. Tony Romo was doing that in real time, right? Like, so Tony Romo is like the gold, silver, and bronze, and everybody else, like in like the ski race in the Olympics, like hit a fucking tree. Yeah. Right. Like, so,
awesome. And then he lost it. Like there was a play yesterday. He lost his fucking mind.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I can't believe this was done. Like they went on fourth down, they went to the shotgun and threw it, which is insane.
Right. But yeah, so that's my problem. And it's like I mentioned, it transcends soccer, American sports, English sport, whatever. But like the thing that bothers me the most,
Mike, there has to be a reason that I think a lot of people know that announcing can be better. I think the problem is most people think they want it that way until you actually get the nerdy stuff. And then you're just like, can you stop? Like, I remember, like we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, Brian Kenny, you're just like, stop.
But we don't need everybody redefining the game with fucking new stats you made up 2 weeks ago. What I'm saying is break down the play. Show me why it happened, not what happened, why it happened. Right.
And I mean, soccer can't have it in real. The problem with soccer is you can't really do it in real time.
No. But there's a fucking halftime show.
It have to be after, yeah.
Yeah, of course, that's fine. But I think the thing that bothers me that I can't get past specifically in the English Premier League is that in the US, we settle for whatever we can get because there's 5-6 sports. I've said this a bunch of times, but that's the only game in town, quite fucking literally. Yeah. There are no casuals. I mean, there are, but they're not watching, right?
No.
Like that. Listen, you're going to tell me that anywhere under 95% of English Premier League club affiliated fans are casuals? No fucking chance. Right?
Yeah, they're all hardcore. Anyone who's watching now, they're not going, I'll just watch it. Oh, this game's on. I'll just watch it.
Exactly right. They have a rooting interest in every single game because of how it affects their club. Now, when you think about it, you go, okay, if I'm watching the game and I'm talking about, if I'm the talking head and I'm talking about United and I'm talking about Arsenal and I'm talking about Chelsea because my producer tells me to, organically we get beholden to these narratives, right?
Yeah.
United's a mess, Ole out, blah, 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 blah. Frank's not a good coach. It's not. Instead of being like, actually, Frank needs to grow a pair of fucking balls, keep Giroud in the lineup, sit everybody else, figure it out. And then here's why. Right.
Yeah.
What Giroud does, and he opens up I'm making this all up. Right. But
but the thing is, you don't get that. Right. You hear the term, he holds up the ball and runners run off him. Okay. What does that look like?
Right.
Because I don't know.
Right. Exactly. And so there's an outward refusal to go deeper, but it's because you've got these United, Arsenal, Chelsea talking points that all of a sudden United, Arsenal, Chelsea fans start being like, oh, you fucking hate our team, blah, blah, blah. You got Tottenham fans.
They don't hate your team, okay?
I know, but you don't care. Tottenham fans going, you never fucking talk about us, this and that, blah, 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 blah. And the old Arsenal fucking, that.
Oh God, Wenger
they're a mess. This and that.
Wenger out was just constant.
It was for 4 years.
More.
Show me why they're not doing well. That's the
but it's always just they need more steel. The funny thing is when they say they need more steel and everyone knows it, and then they get a player that has more steel, and you're like, oh, I guess they needed more steel.
Yeah,
like Højbjerg, right? Like
That's
Højbjerg.
exactly
What did Spurs need? Oh, right, they needed more steel.
They needed Højbjerg. But you know what they needed? They needed a guy who's going to sit in front of the back four, who's going to defend a little bit more. Oh, you mean like, I don't know, N'Golo Kante for Chelsea? Like, oh, is that what they need? Like Wilfred Ndidi? Like, is that what they need? Yeah, they fucking need that guy. So when you start to say it, right? They'll never do this because of their different skin colors ever, by the way. But like,
I'll compare them to the two players. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But like, think about it, right? Like, show me something from N'Golo Kante from the 2016 season, and then show me something that Emile Højbjerg, does this season. I bet you there's a lot of shit that looks a lot like.
Well, they play that. It would be different because
it'd be different. But
Højbjerg plays the two.
And I'm not sitting here saying I should be the talking head. I'm saying these motherfuckers need to find that shit because it's.
Well, they would never compare those two because they literally don't look. They look.
That's the point.
They look completely different.
That's the point. And actually, well, fine, but that's the point. They're only and this is true of all sports. And actually, the show The League had a great bit about this, where like every white wide receiver in the NFL is scrappy, and every Spanish player is a firecracker, and every black guy is a class act, right? And actually, it's true, and you can hear it in some announcers still.
Brutal, like.
Right? But they only compare one race to another, right? Whereas you just compare the position to the position
or the way they play, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know.
Anyway,
Speaking of black players, I would like to talk about Tanguy Ndombele for a second.
You want to talk about the goal?
All right, let me just say something. He did not try to score. Okay.
Yes, he did, dude.
No, he didn't. But it doesn't matter. I'm not taking anything away from him. He is an absolute like luxury vehicle in an otherwise shitbox.
He's what you wanted. He's Moussa Dembele.
Yes, I've said that. Yeah, but
he's
like
back.
You know what's interesting? He's been on the team for almost 2 full seasons now. It is the second time he's played 90 minutes, including Europa League, including everything.
Really?
Like, yes. Second time.
So the first season, Mourinho wouldn't play him. He was hurt a lot.
Yep, that's correct.
So it's a little bit.
No, I know, but like
they were like in the park in fucking Hyde Park practicing together.
That's right. During lockdown, they got in trouble for that. But we're halfway through the season, right? 18 games.
Almost. I feel like next week we should probably do the real happy.
Sure.
Let's look. We've got games, dude. We have games.
Oh my God, more.
Do it again. Not stopping. I can't
run it again.
Oh my God, there's so many games. It just doesn't stop. So tomorrow, West Ham, West Brom, both in the West, but nowhere near each other. They're just west of the city that they're in. Actually, no. West Ham is in East London. It's just west of East Ham.
When I stayed in West London, I'm still confused. I was like, what the fuck?
What is it west of?
Yeah, my West Ham is probably around here somewhere.
No.
I said that to a local and I almost got hit. Like,
no. West Ham is in East London.
Yeah.
Very strange. West Brom is in a different city, not called Bromwich, but Birmingham. So and Albion is just a nickname of England. Don't ask all these fucking questions. There's lots of Albions everywhere.
Nobody did.
I'm just saying that they're bizarre. Leicester, Chelsea, that's a big fucking game.
Big one.
I think Chelsea need this more than Leicester. I don't think Leicester can lose this and everyone go, oh, Leicester, you lost. If Leicester at home put the smack on Chelsea, that's Lampard out. Like, I think this is a cage match. This is loser goes home.
Not
for Leicester, but for Chelsea.
Yeah, no, I know. I still don't see a scenario where Frank doesn't see the end of the year. I mean,
you think no matter what he'll make it to the end? Bullshit. No way. They'll fire his ass.
I think that Roman Abramovich has loyalty to no one, but if there
first of all, he's not in London. They don't let him in because they'll take all his money. He's in Israel and probably has not been to a Chelsea game in 18 months.
You think he's not paying attention?
I think that he's more worried about getting poisoned by Putin.
That's possible, but I think I think he's currently the closest we have to a modern day Steinbrenner, which taking Steve Cohen aside for a second, because like he's dirty as fuck. He's crazy, right? So with that in mind, if there's ever any person who has the benefit of the doubt with Abramovich, it's Frank Lampard.
Yeah,
So,
maybe.
And to be clear, he gave him the job too soon, right? So I think he gets this season. And I think he starts next season and he's
but if they start falling, if they lose this, and now that means they've lost, it would if they start slipping down into the 10 range, a couple more losses, like they haven't been killed is the thing, right? They just seem to be losing. If they get rocked, then it's trouble.
So okay. They've got an okay schedule. After this, they've got Wolves. And then they've got Burnley. You need 3 from Burnley. And they usually do take care of business with Burnley.
Wolves, I don't know. Wolves are playing really badly, but
question. That's a game you should win right now. And then they come to White Hart Lane on February 3rd, which is only 2 weeks away, which is nuts. So, you know what? I mean, look, we could be, they lose tomorrow and they don't get 6 points from Wolves and Burnley. And then they come back into,
are you talking about Leicester or Chelsea?
Chelsea, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
They lose to Leicester. They don't get 6 points. So some combination of not 6 points from Wolves and Burnley. And then they if they lose it at Tottenham 2 weeks from now, that's a potential like, hey, that seat's fucking white hot on your ass right now.
Yeah. And then on Wednesday, so we'll pod again on Thursday. But until then, we'll have City versus Villa, which is a really, really good game. I don't know what version of Villa is going to show up.
No clue. We haven't seen them in a month and a half.
I don't know who's available. I don't know how their quarantine is working. I don't know what their outbreak was like. So it could be that City just gets a very easy game.
Possible.
At home, this will be a tough game. City tend to play well against teams that want to play. So if Villa tries to come out and play, they're going to get killed.
Which they only have one speed.
I have a lot of confidence in my team now. They have been so
there he is.
Having defensive solidity is just a completely different animal to being high scoring, but able to get scored on the break.
January 18th, folks, for those that listen to the show, I see you. January 18th is the first time in the 2020-2021 season that Laurent Courtine's Manchester City fan was confident in Manchester City. I understand. And if you listen to us by now, you understand that he's a self-loathing piece of shit. But my goodness, man.
My personality
you're the last one at the party.
Is how I feel about my team. Like
I know you're the last one at the party. But you're not.
I'm the worst.
Listen, if you were, in fact, a Brighton fan, you'd be you should be. You're perfect. You're perfect for a Brighton fan. Games you should win, you're not going to win. You know what? You're welcome on the Tottenham bandwagon. Come to think of it.
I'm just the worst. I really should have been an Everton fan, and I should just be Roger Bennett.
Yeah. Okay, I can say. Listen, there's like 6 or 7
inside me is a bald Jewish man from England.
Oh, that's true.
Then by Wednesday, Fulham, Man United. This is Fulham at home. Man United still do. They fail to. They just like. I don't know. Yes. No. I guess don't trust this team at all. The fact that they've won 9 in a row. Blah 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 blah. This team lives on moments and penalties. Like, there's no way that they play. They don't dominate games. They don't put pressure on teams. You don't ever feel like, oh, they're on top of a team and they're banging it around and trying to probe. Things just fucking happen. It's like, we have good players. They're going to go play. And if we win, it's because they did good things once in a while.
Well, and let's be clear about something.
Believe.
There is one singular reason why you can attribute them being at the top of the table right now and not 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever. It's because sure. But also they didn't let Manchester City and Liverpool get 3 points from them, right? Yeah. They played boring fucking not to lose football and they didn't lose.
City did too against
City did too. That's fair. Yeah. And I don't know that I don't know what I would call that Liverpool game aside from I'm going to fucking punch somebody if they demand that it's the biggest rivalry in England because that game fucking stunk out loud. But
but there's no fans. That's where you lose it.
I know. But still, okay. They didn't lose against City and Liverpool. That's big.
That's huge.
That's fucking big, right?
Yeah,
and they're going to have to do it again at some point at the end of the season. But that is currently why they're number 1. I get Bruno. I get the penalties. I get all that shit. Otherwise, if they lose either of those 2 games, they're not first, and whoever beats them is. So,
well, Danny Higginbotham has this line. He's like, whoever finishes ahead of City will win the league.
That's correct. I
right?
totally agree.
Unless City wins unless it's no one.
Unless it's no one. In which case, all right. Listen, I actually in our season previews, and we'll talk about it this probably more next time. I had City 1, United 2, Liverpool 3. I'm not kidding.
I know. And then Liverpool play Burnley, no longer a gimme.
Jesus.
They might not score.
We'll see. So, we'll be fresh potting after that one.
And then we'll be back on Monday to cover the week. We'll talk about the remaining fixtures.
We do have a big
Thursday.
weekend for Liverpool, by the way, or a big few days coming up for Liverpool. They play United in the FA Cup, and then they played Spurs in London.
They're gonna ditch that. They're gonna ditch that FA Cup game.
They probably are, but we'll see. We'll see. So we'll talk about it on Thursday. Yeah. But yeah,
we went long. We went well. This was good.
Yeah. You're welcome, everybody.
All right, everyone. Please rate and review the show. This was Squeaky Bum Time Podcast. We do meet up on Mondays and Thursdays. Every once in a while.